Right. Order in the court, order in the court. Hello there and welcome back to VR Courtroom. Judge Ekron sitting to hear the crimes against Mr. Sprett. Hello there, everybody. Mr. VK, could you please fetch me 2 charge sheets of your choice from the left-hand side and bring them to me? These over. Oh, I say. Now, we have 2 crimes here, and one of them is incredibly serious to the point where, unfortunately, if it was up to me, the person would be hung for this instance before we even had the trial. But unfortunately, my chipset is wrong at the moment, so I can't do that, logic. But yes, Mr. Sprett, you are accused first of murder and of crimes against birds. Now, obviously, crimes against birds is the serious one in this case. Murder is the secondary charge here, as the crimes against birds are very serious crime. So, Mr. Sprett, in the order of least serious to most serious, how do you plead to the charge of murder?
Not guilty.
Not guilty. And how do you plead to the charge of crimes against birds?
Definitely guilty. Not guilty.
Definitely guilt / not guilty. I see. Well, we shall enter that as a plea of not guilty. So, the accused has pled not guilty to both of the crimes laid out before him. So what will happen is we will be moving on to a bench jury trial. This will once again be a criminal case, not a civil case, with the 2 charges in question, one being more serious than the other. As we did before, the lawyers will go off to do their evidence. The prosecution will do their evidence first, and the defence will be able to speak to their client in the back room, and then vice versa. However, before that happens, there will be a discussion with the lawyers with me in my chambers. So lawyers, if you would be kind enough to accompany me to my chambers, I would vastly appreciate that. No lube required this time. So we are going to begin with our opening statements. I'm going to hand the floor to Mr. J, if you'd be kind enough to stand in the black circle, and you will be given the time frame of 2 minutes to make your opening statement, although it can be as short as you like. So, Mr. J, you may begin your opening statement as you see fit.
It was true that on the day of the incident, Mr. Sprett was found and arrested at the site of the zoo. I don't really have an opening statement. I was more planned for the case itself. I can't really think of anything.
No, that's absolutely fine. All you need to say is that Mr. Sprett was arrested at the zoo because he's been a very naughty girl, or something along those lines, and that is a totally acceptable opening statement, Mr. J. Don't worry about it too much. It's more just groundwork and formalities,
Yes, thank you.
Lovely.
Yeah,
thank you, Mr. J. That's much appreciated. If you'd be kind enough to take a seat. Right, Mr. Bro, if you'd be kind enough to step into the circle and present your opening statement, you will also have the time frame of 2 minutes. The floor is yours, my friend.
Mr. Sprite, was at the zoo, and he did not murder a bird. He didn't murder it. It was in... I don't know. I have it for,
That's also absolutely fine. As I said to Mr. J, if you just want to say that Mr. Sprett was at the zoo, but he did not murder that bird, that is a very acceptable opening statement. Thank you, Mr. Bro. Vastly appreciated.
I don't say anything.
Yeah, well, they know that the crime is crime against birds. I never actually told the jury, but really they should know exactly what the accused is actually accused of doing, realistically, to make a fair decision. So I am actually going to tell them what the accusation is, but in the base terms. So, for the jury's benefit, and I should have done this beforehand, I apologise, even I make mistakes, and esteemed judges myself, Mr. Sprett is accused of teasing a bird with food and then murdering the bird after an altercation. That is what he is accused of. However, I know no further details. That's up to the lawyers. And with that having been said, I am now going to hand the floor over to Mr. JMP to present his full and frank case using all of the evidence that he has acquired, with my apologies for that oversight on my behalf. Mr. JMP, the floor belongs to you. If you know how this works, so just let me know what you want to bring up and feel free to go on. Mr. Bro, you may object following the objection rules as you see fit.
Is it okay if I ask the lawyer a couple questions?
You are free to ask the lawyer and the accused questions. They may both refuse to answer questions if they deem so, and they may also claim badgering if you are harassing them, or I may call you out for that, but you are allowed to ask them questions if you see fit. I will allow it.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Bro, is it true that you said that Mr. Spratt did not murder any bird?
He did not murder no birds. That is true.
Mr. Spratt, is it true while in the room, you said that you murdered the bird because it was because it had rabies?
As of that, at the zoo, I said that I had to put down the bird. Not murder.
So I see a contradiction here. Am I correct in that?
Well, it depends on if you can prove, or if the defence can prove the qualifications of Mr. Spratt, as putting an animal down is not necessarily murder if it's done for a medical reason. But do carry on with your case, Mr.
Please
J.
Please bring up number 3. Thank you.
Number 3. Number 3?
Nope, never mind. Nope. The letter C.
The letter C. I thought you said 3.
Yep.
My apologies.
Yes, I did say 3, but I thought it was 3.
Don't worry about it.
Why would you have a knife? Anyway, as we can see, a death...
It's cool. Take a moment. Compose yourself. You're all good.
Yes. As we can see by the death certificate, we have of the bird. A post-mortem revealed that it did not have any affliction, mental disabilities, or anything like that. He was a perfectly normal bird, murdered.
Mr. J, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. What number am I thinking of?
I see. I'm going to guess the number 10.
Number 10. Very well, I will reveal that information later on. Please do carry on.
Thank you. If we can show number 1, please. Letter A, please. Thank you. These are the specific plants and seeds that were shown to birds but never given them. As you can see, that every seed is still there. It was reportedly by witnesses thrown in front of the birds and waved, but was never given to the birds, teasing them. Can we please bring up B, please? By the police report, we can find that Mr. Spratt put up a rather light resistance to the why can't I? What's the word? Whatever. Thank you. I thought there was an R in the front. I am tired. Put a little resistance, a little bit of resistance in the arrest, and stated that he did not deserve to be arrested for his actions. Can we please bring up D? As we can see, the murder weapon, a single bullet was fired into the bird directly on its left wing, causing an artery to be burst and it dying of blood loss.
Okay.
I believe that'll be all.
Just before you go, I'm going to refer you to the information I have written on the back of the charge sheet, because that's how professional of a judge I am, referring back to evidence number B. Now, according to the information I have here, the author of this post-mortem is veterinarian Dr. Spratt himself, so whether what it says I can't read because it's so comprehensively badly written. However, Mr. Spratt is the signing veterinarian on this documentation, which means unfortunately you lost the roll quite catastrophically. The number was 2, so it's signed by Mr. Spratt, but we cannot read what's on there.
It's letter C. It's letter C.
Letter C, alright, fair enough. Yeah, I brought the wrong bloody thing up again, didn't I? But the point in hand is that although it is a death certificate, nobody with human eyes can read what it says because Mr. Spratt's handwriting is absolutely awful. However, it is signed by a Mr. Spratt, and we do know it was performed at a veterinarian practice, so it lends credence to Mr. Bro and Mr. Spratt's claim that he is a vet. I said, unfortunately, the luck of the roll was not on your side on that one, Mr. J, but unfortunately that is the way court goes. So I thought I'd let you know that so you could make amendments as you see fit.
Yes, that would be very helpful, but, actually, I think I should bring this up in an amendment. That will be all, thank you.
You can bring it up now if you like, but okay. Right, okie dokie then. Well, that was an interesting opening case with admittedly a bit of luck on the side of the defence there in relation to the certificate, but sometimes that's just the way that courtroom goes. So thank you very much for your opening case, Mr. J, and I'm aware that we will be having some amendments to actually address this time, so looking forward to those. Mr. Bro, I'm now going to invite you to the circle of speaking, as I'm now going to call it until I forget that, and I'm going to ask you to present your full and frank case as you see fit. So, my friend, Mr. Haybro, you may present your full and frank case as you see fit. When you're ready, old boy.
Okay, so Sprite is a veterinarian, and his certificate is on, I think, number 2. Yes, as showing, that is his certificate showing that he is a veterinarian. And he did not murder the bird. He was putting it down because it had rabies. He was not teasing the birds because he was a veterinarian and he knows how to check if a bird has rabies or not. He was he was kind of teasing them, but if it bit him, and it showed that it had rabies, so he had to put it down. Not murder. Put it down.
Go ahead with your objection, Mr. J.
Do you happen to have medical reports on your bite mark? Because surely you would have to get a vaccination because it had rabies. Do you happen to have that?
I don't have it on me because I'm in a courtroom.
Interesting point. I mean, my question would be, can a bird even have rabies? But that's not for me to ask. Okay, hang on one moment. I have, unfortunately, misplaced the coin of tossing. So we're literally going to toss a picture of a sun conure on a badge called Mango. Mango is fucking lovely. So, Mr. Sprett, heads or tails?
Tails.
Tails, right. Well, we tossed Mango, and it has come up. That's incredibly unfair because it's balanced. Jesus Christ, let me actually find a coin. I love Mango to bits. Mango is one of the loveliest birds of tropical birdland, but they do not make a good coin tossing thing. Oh, why are you doing that, you stupid computer? Stop being a little shit. Right, okay, my apologies. What did you say, sorry, Sprett? Tails. Righto, based on the information I have at hand, I'm just quickly going to do a database search because I'm a protogen, I'm connected to the internet, so just... Oh, I tell you, that internet is sure a hell of a thing. You should try it sometime. It's like cocaine. Anyway, having looked up the medical records for the local centres in a 150-mile radius, there is no medical record of Mr. Sprett receiving any kind of medical treatment for rabies in any centre. Bearing in mind that the bird zoo will have been located in a fairly local area, we can assume Mr. Sprett would not travel such a long distance for such a serious thing. So thank you for your objection, Mr. J. Mr. Bro, you may continue your case as you see fit.
If you could go to number 1, please. As you can see here, this is the bag of food that he was feeding the bird that had rabies. He was feeding this bag of, I think it was bread to the birds, to check if it had rabies or not.
Abstained, Mr. J. I want to see where Mr. Bro's going with this first. Carry on, Mr. Bro.
As he was checking for rabies, he knows that if it would usually go for the bread, not him, and it went for him. All the other birds went for the bread, but that bird was going for him. That bird was also had foaming from the mouth and was acting strange, as he says.
One moment, Mr. Bro. Mr. J, your objection from earlier, you may state it now.
As as a veterinarian, you would understand that giving bread to a bird can detriment its health. You understand this, correct?
Yes.
Then why would you be giving bread to the birds?
I choose not to answer that question.
The accused does reserve the right to refuse to answer questions. So, thank you for your objection, Mr. J. Take it into consideration, jury. For the record, bread is detrimental to birds. We consider it the McDonald's of birds. Birds love it, but it's not fantastic for them. Don't know why a veterinarian would choose to use it, but they all have their own uses and practices. So thank you for the valid objection, Mr. J. Mr. Bro, you may carry on as you see fit.
The bread was in tiny slices, not just a huge loaf. If you could go to number 4, please. Sorry, number 3.
Number 3, of course.
I could not find any syringes in the back, so I'm just gonna say this is a syringe.
Suspension of disbelief, I'll allow it.
So since he's a veterinarian, he took the bird into his veterinarian place. He had to use this syringe to put down the bird because it had rabies and it could potentially harm other people since it was at a zoo. And he needed to get it away from everyone so in case it did not bite anyone else and hurt anyone else. So he had to put it down.
Apologies, Mr. Bro. Are you making an objection, Mr. J?
Yes, I am.
I didn't hear it at all, but I'll allow you to state your objection, Mr. J. Go ahead.
So, upon finding the bird, a police report discovered that it was already dead at sight with a bullet wound in its left wing. As I stated before, it had pierced an artery and now bled out. How could he possibly take it into his lab and then use a syringe to take it down humanely?
Okay, before we carry on, Mr. JMP, I am thinking of a number between 1 and 20. What number am I thinking of?
You cruel, cruel man.
Oh, certainly.
I'm guessing the number 14.
Mr. Bro, what number am I thinking of?
Number 7.
Very well. Well, I will be pleased to inform the court that a police record was indeed filed that found that the bird was dead before it was taken off site and that there did appear to be a bullet wound that had done some damage to an artery or severe blood loss in the wing. You would not necessarily need to destroy an artery to cause that kind of damage to a bird feasibly. You can kill birds by just clipping their toenails wrong. Trust me, I've seen it. It's unpleasant. So, yes, 14 was the correct answer, Mr. JMP. Bang on, so you get the critical victory, which is why it all goes in your favour. Do carry on with your case as you see fit, Mr. Bro, bearing that information in mind.
If you could go to number 4, please. As you can see here, the zoo has given him this money for putting down the bird and saving lives of not dying and the infection of the rabies. The zoo gave him this money for saving a lot of lives and putting down the bird before it did any more harm.
Okay, does that bring your case to a close, Mr. Bro?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Bro. A very well, eloquently put case.
Question.
I will allow it, but you normally again have to go through the objection phase whilst the case is still ongoing rather than closing. But I'm going to allow it because all of your objections admittedly have been on point and relevant. So go ahead with your last objection before amendments, Mr. J.
Could this theoretically be a bribe? Keep this under the rug?
I am not going to answer that.
Okay, fair enough. Not the answer I would have given, but you are the lawyer. You would choose to what you say, so thank you. And we will draw the cases to a close there. And thank you both lawyers. You've both been surprisingly eloquent and good at what you do. As I said, it's the first time you've been in a courtroom with me, Mr. J, in the seat of the lawyers, and I've been very pleased, especially with your line of questioning. You've been pertinent and on point with everything. And Mr. Bro, I have been very pleased with the way that you have presented your case and the calmness that you've managed to bring through with it, since it is your first time in court ever, and it is rather intimidating when the other lawyer suddenly comes out with a very pertinent question and the judge says he's right. So you've done an excellent job there as well. So well done to both the lawyers on that front. So what we're going to move to now is the amendments phase. As we know, amendments are amendments you wish to make to your case relating to information that you have learned from the other lawyers. I'm aware that Mr. J wants to make some amendments, so we might actually hear something from this point. So we will start with Mr. J. Mr. J, would you like to make any amendments to your case?
Now, because I have a terrible memory, I can't remember why I wrote this down, but I do remember writing down during a situation where I said to myself, I've screwed up. When did I do that again? I forget.
This was in relation to he is a vet, and the death certificate, I believe, was the point that you brought up.
At the time that that we discovered that his handwriting was utterly appalling, I turned around and noticed him celebrating the fact that nobody could read his handwriting. An innocent man would not do this. Why would a man start celebrating?
So you'd like to put the amendment in place that he purposely wrote poorly so nobody could understand what was on the certificate itself?
I also was thinking of doing something else, but my memory is terrible and I forgot to write it down, so we'll forget about that.
Let's run with that one. Is that the amendment you're putting forward?
Yes, I would like to keep that amendment.
I'd like to hear what the defence has to say in relation to this amendment from the defence lawyer. Mr. Bro, do you have anything to say about this amendment?
No, but I think he was raising his hand for something.
He was, and I will allow him to have a word with you if he'd like to explain the handwriting. I will allow that because I haven't accepted the amendment yet. You will get the opportunity to put more amendments forward. We're dealing with the first one, Mr. J. So
no, I was just adding more to this amendment. He was not putting his hand up, he was performing a double dab.
I'm aware he was performing a dab there. I watched him, but now he was putting his hand up whilst you were putting the amendment forward here as if he wanted to ask a question.
I was not worrying about that.
Trust me, I did see the dab, and he did perk an eyebrow, and I hope the jury noticed the dab. But, Mr. Sprett, did you want to explain about your handwriting?
No. What's about? Never mind.
All right, Mr. Bro, do you have anything to say in relation to this amendment?
The handwriting that he was writing would probably be him writing in cursive.
Okay. The court has accepted the amendment to Mr. J's case that Mr. Sprett was seen celebrating when the realisation that nobody could read the handwriting on the death certificate, which I believe was number B, or C rather, right here. Mr. Sprett was seen celebrating when nobody could understand his handwriting on this death certificate. And that the reason it's so bad is because Mr. Sprett was writing in cursive. So there we go. Somebody's actually used amendments correctly. That hasn't happened. I don't think anyone's done that this year. So bonus points to you. Are there any further amendments you'd like to make to your case, Mr. J?
No, I think that'll be all. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Bro, would you like to make any amendments to your case based on new evidence you've heard? No is an acceptable answer if you don't.
No, I do not have anything else to say.
Very good. Well, in that case then, lawyers, we shall move on to the last part of court for the lawyers, which is the closing statements. And I said I have thoroughly enjoyed this court case so far. It's been full of twists and nicks and it's been a really good one. So I'm looking forward to this. I would not want to be a juryman right now. So we will be starting with the prosecution's closing statement. Again, 2 minutes to make a closing statement, summing up your case in general, telling the jury and telling me, referring to any evidence you want to and anything that's been brought up. Try not to insult people, though. Your time begins now.
I do believe that I have summed most of it up in the case, but I would like to say he celebrated during the fact that nobody could read his handwriting. Only person that would do that is if he either incorrectly wrote it down or correctly wrote it down but was scared that people would use it against him, so is happy that nobody could read his handwriting. Another thing, why would someone lie about the syringe, or the defendant give false information to his defense lawyer? I don't really have much closing statement. I think that'll be all.
Okay then, thank you very much for your closing statement and your case, Mr. J. You may take a seat. And Mr. Bro, I shall lend you the floor for the last time today to make your closing statement. 2 minutes and your time begins now.
I would just like to say that the bread, I think he was just feeding the bread because he knows he likes to eat bread. The birds like to eat bread, but I know it is bad for them, I've heard. And the syringe, there's two different sides of the stories, and I know it's hard, but that's all I have. I don't have much.
Okay. Thank you for your closing statement, Mr. Bro. I accept closing statements can be a bit stressful at times, so thank you kindly. You may take a seat. And that brings an end to the lawyer's cases. And I said this has been a real roller coaster of a ride. I must admit, I know what my judgment will be, but my judgment is only pertinent to the curiosity of the accused. A jury being led by foreman Mr. Nutt. Mr. Nutt, fantastic name. You are now to retire using the door behind you to your conference room, where you will spend up to 15 minutes deliberating the fate. If you have a tie, you may return and turn the judgment over to me, but try to come to a fair and just judgment. Mr. Donut, you may take them off. Mr. VK has, I don't know, eaten something, so that's fine. So off the jury pops. You two, Fen, go on. Go on, Fen. Go on, Fen. I bet he's AFK.
Whenever you pick up your, I don't want to call it hammer.
Gavel.
Whenever you pick up that, your voice gets louder. Just wanted to let you know.
Ah, so that's how the microphone works. If you're holding the gavel, the microphone works. Now I know I shall hold the gavel forever, and you'll never escape my voice. Thank you for letting me know. He keeps changing the bloody map and the way it works, but okay. Thank you for that. Now I know, and this is why I like to talk to people of all ages, because you can learn something all the way through. Anyway, welcome back to VR Courtroom. The jury has returned. So, I know we're all waiting in suspension. In this, I most definitely am. As I said, I already know what my judgment will be, but I'm not the jury. So, Mr. Donuts, as the foreman of the jury, has the jury come to a decision?
Yes, the jury has in fact come to a unanimous decision.
A unanimous decision. Very good, Mr. Donuts. Then, if you will be so kind, would you please reveal the judgment to the court?
Yes, sir. The jury has come to the conclusion, based on the logical fallacy, that birds cannot in fact contract rabies, and on the prosecution's case, that Spret is guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. Very good. Thank you, jury, for that. And Mr. Spret, then, are you finding, jury, is this a guilty for both crimes, both murder and crimes against birds?
Yes.
Very well. So, Mr. Spret, you have been found guilty of both the crimes accused of. I must admit, the rabies fallacy was indeed most likely the unsticking point of this entire case, but so be it. Mr. Spret, you have been found guilty of the crime of murder and crimes against bird, and therefore I sentence you to death by being taken into the cage of a bunch of incredibly horny and angry sulfur-crusted cockatoos whilst being covered in birdseed and bird pheromones so they literally bite and fuck you to death until you are dead. Punishment to be proceeded immediately after court.
I got a better way. This might take a bit.
Oh, Kylo.
You know what? Got it.
But yeah, another case, man. Another one. So that was a good one. I must admit, the rabies thing was the one thing that put it down. But if it had been up to me, I probably would have gone in general with innocent on the base that with the rabies bird, if it's attacking you, there is the possibility for a panic reaction where you may choose to shoot the bird. Although with the rabies, you're correct. As far as I'm aware, birds cannot themselves get rabies because of the way their internal organs work. So that was the down sticking point. And it was just that one thing that I think that probably threw it off. I mean, did you have any other particular point?